At my daughter's birthday party, she said. "Thank you, Dad, for the new car. But the only way you can make me happy is when you leave me alone." Everyone laughed and cheered on. I smiled and immediately moved out. Then I vanished. What happened next was rather unexpected. I will tell you everything. First, let me quickly thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Steve Grant from New York. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now, let's go deeper into the story. I'd always believed that love, when poured long and steady, could eventually fill any crack. That was my parenting philosophy. Or maybe just a coping mechanism dressed up as wisdom. Either way, it's what I clung to over the years. I was a single father by necessity, not choice. My daughter, Maya, came into this world screaming her lungs out and never quite stopped. Her mother left when she was 9. Said she couldn't handle the weight of motherhood like it was some seasonal gig she'd been tricked into. So, I picked up the slack, braided hair with trembling fingers, packed school lunches with handwritten notes, showed up to every recital, even when my body begged for sleep. I built a life around her needs, convinced that if I worked hard enough, gave enough, she'd always know I had her back. Now I owned a modest construction firm, built it from scratch. Took me years to move out of debt, then into stability and eventually into quiet affluence. I never broadcasted my success. I wasn't flashy, but for Maya's 25th birthday, I decided to splurge. I bought her a brand new Lexus, pearl white, leather interior, all the bells and whistles. It was more than just a gift. It was my way of saying, I see you. I'm proud. I'll always be here. I didn't realize it would become the last thing I ever gave her. She'd grown into a woman I didn't entirely recognize. She was beautiful, smart, confident, yes, but also cold in a way that felt new. She barely returned my calls these days, and when she did, it was surface level. We hadn't had a real conversation in over a year. But I told myself that was just how young people were, detached, independent. I was the relic father she didn't know how to relate to anymore. That didn't stop me from trying. The party was at her mother's house. That was my first mistake. I should have known better. But Maya insisted it was easier to host there. Said it was neutral ground. Funny how the person who walked out on us got to be considered neutral. I arrived early as always, helped set up the tables, carried in the cake she didn't know I paid for, and parked the new Lexus right in front with a big red bow on top. It was corny, sure, but I imagined the look on her face. I imagined tears or maybe just a hug that lasted longer than usual. Instead, I got a show. There were about 50 people there, friends, cousins, co-workers, some folks I didn't even recognize. She looked stunning in a red dress, drink in hand, laughing like the world owed her nothing but joy. When she saw the car, her eyes widened for a second and I caught a flicker of the girl I used to know. Then it vanished. "Dad, you didn't," she squealed, running over, phone already filming. "This is insane. Like, who needs a Lexus? You're crazy. Crazy. Not thoughtful, not loving, not appreciated, just crazy." I smiled through it because that's what I trained myself to do. I stood beside her as she showed off the car to her friends, nodded along as they gushed. The attention she gave me was fleeting, performative. I was just a prop in her Instagram story. Then came the toast. Someone clinked a glass and suddenly Maya was on the makeshift stage, mic in hand, smiling that same dazzling smile she inherited from her mother. "I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming," she began, swaying a little from champagne. "And special thanks to my dad who bought me this insane car." Like, who does that? Only my dad, right? People laughed. I smiled, still hopeful. "But honestly," she continued, pausing for effect, "the only way you can really make me happy is when you leave me alone." The crowd erupted, laughter, cheers. Someone even whistled. She beamed, proud of her little punchline. I stood frozen. My smile held, but inside something twisted. She didn't look at me, didn't add a wink or a just kidding. Just took another sip of champagne and passed the mic to her friend. Nobody noticed me walk out, not even her. I didn't slam the door. I didn't shout or make a scene. I just walked, one slow, calculated step after another, past the buffet table, the chattering guests, the DJ booth, and out into the parking lot. The summer air was warm, but didn't touch me. I felt insulated in that moment, like I was watching myself from a distance. I climbed into my old pickup truck, the one I drove when I wasn't pretending to be the generous father with money to spare, and sat there with my hands on the wheel, unmoving. Her voice still echoed in my head, "Leave me alone." It was a joke to her, a punchline. But to me, it sounded like permission or maybe a dare. I didn't cry, not that night. But I did stare straight ahead until the sky turned black and the party lights dimmed inside the house. No one came looking for me. Not her mother, not one of those people who laugh like my humiliation was entertainment. That's when I made the decision. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't even emotional. It was just clear, the clearest thing I'd felt in years. I was done. She wanted space, she could have it. She wanted freedom, I'd hand it to her. Stripped of all the luxuries I gave without question. I would not bankroll my own disrespect. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the wheels in my head were already turning. The Lexus was still registered under my name. I had the spare key and the tracking device was still active. She hadn't even transferred the insurance yet. I opened my laptop and made the first call to the dealership. They said they could dispatch a tow truck by morning. Next, I logged into the online banking portal. 2 accounts were frozen in under 10 minutes. The shared one I opened when she started college and the card I gave her for emergencies that had somehow paid for 2 trips to Miami and an obscene amount of Uber Eats. I left the balances untouched. I wasn't stealing, just closing the gates. Then came the house. That one stung. I bought it 2 years ago when she said she wanted to move out but couldn't afford rent in a decent neighborhood. I didn't put it in her name. Something told me to hold that boundary and I was grateful now that I did. I called the property manager and gave notice. Renters would be in by the end of the month. I'd pay for her storage and moving costs, one final courtesy, but she would need to vacate. I wasn't going to leave her homeless. Just accountable. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with the lights off, replaying every missed sign, every eye roll, every unanswered call, every sarcastic love you too, Dad. I thought of her 6th grade talent show where she forgot the words and ran off stage crying. I thought of the night she turned 18 and I surprised her with a scrapbook of every note, drawing, and school certificate I'd ever saved. She rolled her eyes then, too. Said I was doing too much. Maybe I always had been.